Talking to our friend Joe Hillman, national champion from 1987, Indiana basketball. Joe, the Indiana team has seemed their Mike Woodson seems to have them trending in the right direction. Recruiting is everything is going up. Tournament play, they're getting better. They're getting back to where they need to be, where people would like for them to be. It's been a long trip, man. It seems like it's been forever, but Indiana is getting back to where they just beat Kansas for Mbako on that recruiting win. They're going to be going up against Kentucky for another recruit in Joey Hart, a shooter much like yourself. So it's Indiana's getting kind of back to where fans want to see them.
Well, yeah, I mean, we made a good hire. We finally made a hire where the guy understands the culture of what Indiana basketball is all about, and I think that's a huge thing to be able to sell the program because he was a big part of it. I mean, Mike Woodson was a huge part of Indiana basketball and one of the best players that's ever played there. And then I think with his stuff that he's got with the knowledge of the NBA stuff and all that, he can definitely sell that to players. And I think that's what kids want to hear today. They want to hear, hey, how do I get to the next level? And that to me makes recruiting, and it's not even recruiting anymore. It's basically buying. And we can say that now for sure, because that's what you do now. You don't go recruit, you recruit to buy players, because this NIL thing's turned into a mess. And then you got to basically sell the program each and every year to your current players so they don't leave. So he's done a good job with that. But I think, from what I've heard and what he says, is look, you're coming to Indiana to go to Indiana. You're not coming to Indiana to get paid. But obviously, there's some guys that are taking advantage of the NIL. I'd like to know what Alford would have made back in the day in NIL.
Oh, what are you talking about, Alford? I'd like to know what you would have made. I saw those girls from Finland or Sweden driving over to see you
more
play.
than I made. Let's put it that way. Alford would have made way more than I made, but I would like to take advantage of that for sure. It's just, Coach Woodson, Mike's done a great job. He's, I think, he's utilized the transfer portal the way take advantage of it. I mean, I'm sure if you wouldn't ask all these coaches, do you like the idea of the portal? I think majority of them would say, no, I hate it. I think it stinks. But if that's the way it's going to be, we're going to play by the rules, and we are going to, we're going to use it to our advantage also. And he's done a nice job with that. I'm a little surprised on the kid that left Duke or decided to decommit from Duke that Indiana ended up winning out over Kansas on. I'm just surprised why you wouldn't go to Duke because the guy's coming back. Because one big guy's coming back. Who cares? I thought that was strange, and maybe there's more to it, but that was a great get. Obviously, that kid's very talented, fairly high ranked, and just good players. The more good players you get, the better your team's going to get. And then the issue of we're going to play, how many guys you play and whatnot. All right, you know what? It makes practice more competitive, and that can only help your team in the long run.
Absolutely, and to go right along with that, Kenneth points out that Simon Wilcher, who was a high school teammate of Mbako, the player you're talking about, he just decommitted from North Carolina and is a 6'4" shooting guard.
So is he eligible to come this year?
Yes.
Okay, so because Indiana still has one more scholarship to give, or can give, and that'd be interesting. Again, the more good players you can get, the better your practices are, the more competitive things are. And that's why I was so stunned to see Tamar Bates leave. I mean, Tamar Bates, now, maybe they told him, hey, you're not playing next year, but I think Tamar Bates would have been a guy that would have just kept getting better and better. His role next year as a junior would have been more focused on him scoring, which is kind of what he does. And there's no real development anymore in college basketball. If you come in as a freshman, you don't play, you leave. Or they run you off. I mean, it's just I hate the transfer portal because of that. I think good programs have situations where freshmen aren't going to play a lot unless you're a really, really special player. and then you get more playing time as a sophomore, and then you become a starter as a junior and senior, and that's where Tamar Bates to me would have been. So, I think you're going to see a huge deal with Banks and Gunn. I think they'll be better. They're a year older. They're going to be expected to do more. They're not going to come in and try to make every single play. And oh my gosh, if I mess this up, I'm coming out. Or if I miss this shot, I'm coming out. They'll settle down a little bit, and you're going to see them progress and be better and better. But you can't have guys that, okay, I'm a freshman, I didn't get a whole lot of playing time, now I'm leaving, I'm going to the portal. I mean, I just think it's a bad system now.
What if they left the portal in place, but required freshmen to stay or required a player to stay for 2 years at least before you could transfer?
Well, to me, the only way, the way to get rid of the portal, or you can go in the portal, but to get rid of all the jumping around is you got to sit out a year. You want to sit out a year, fine, you can transfer. Now, if a coach leaves, I think those kids should be able to leave and go play right away. But if you're not happy with the playing time or whatnot and you leave, you should have to sit out a year.
I agree. It's just because it's too much. There's too much that goes into the recruiting.
It's too easy to leave. It's just wait. There's guys that are going to play at 3, 4, 5 schools. That's crazy. That's not what this was supposed to be.
You mentioned Mike Woodson understanding the culture of Indiana basketball. Well, currently on his staff, he has Jordan Hulls, whose grandfather came to Bloomington with Bob Knight on his first coaching staff. And then, of course, Jordan was a star for Indiana. But you also have Calbert Chaney, the all-time leading scorer in the Big Ten, one of Indiana's favorites, and, of course, Mike Woodson. I mean, that is something unlike – I don't know that any school in the country has that.
Well, Duke probably had a little bit of that, and Carolina's always had a little bit of that. But yeah, no, I mean it's good.
Well, I mean with the coach. The head coach is a former All-American. Then you've got these 2 other guys.
2 really good players, yeah. Well, I mean it's just like I said, it's trending in the right direction as far as guys understanding what Indiana's all about. And Kelvin Sampson didn't understand it. Tom Crean tried to, and Archie Miller absolutely gave no thought of what Indiana basketball ever was. He was going to do it his way, and he was going to create his own thing, which, all right, I'll give the guy credit for saying, hey, we're going to build our own thing here, but it's crazy that you don't use the tradition. You don't use all the fan base and what they like to see, and I don't know. So going back to that, Mike Woodson was a big part of what Indiana basketball was all about in the Bob Knight era. No doubt about it. I mean, if Mike Woodson doesn't get hurt, they have a shot at winning it all in 1980. So, and he was a great player. He's like I said, he's one of the best players that's ever played at Indiana. And yet, when you say who's the best player at Indiana, Mike Woodson's name rarely comes up. I mean, he's a top 4 guy there ever. So, he understands and bought into it. And when he got recruited by Coach Knight out of Broad Ripple, Mike came in and said, I just want to play. I want to do whatever it takes for me to play. And he gets that. And Mike understands I think where Woody understands the most is developmental process of how do you get better as a player, because that was his major role with a lot of the stuff that he did as an assistant in the NBA. I mean, he was a player development guy. And that helps. And guys want to hear that story. He can go into kids' houses and say, hey, here's what we do. Here's how we get you to the next level, which is what everybody wants to hear. So, but he just gets what Indiana's all about. He knew what it was coming in. And I think some of these other guys that were no part of it never really understood the outside influences, the media, the fan base, the alumni, what it was all about. They never took to it and embraced it. They always kind of tried to fight it to create their own deal. Which maybe if I was a guy that came in from the outside, I'd want to create my own thing. But boy, you'd want to use it to your advantage, I would think. So I think the program's in a great situation. I worry more now about what college basketball and the NCAA is all about, because I think the NCAA will be gone in 4 or 5 years. I think there'll be no NCAA, because I think these schools are going to get together and say, look, let's put together 80 schools for football, and we're not giving the NCAA any money. We're going to take it, and these 80 schools are going to get all the TV money. So now how does the NCAA handle that? And does basketball follow with that? It's a mess. It's a total mess.